Three voices rise from different lands, guided by the moon with open hands. In the circle we unite as one, sharing wisdom under the sun. Divine feminine voices, we are free. Three hearts, one spirit in harmony. On this journey, our truths we share. In the light of love, we're always there.
I love that song.
I do too.
Oh my goodness. I was listening and go, oh, this is so good. Welcome, everyone.
I just feel like music can like shift your whole energetic system. And that, I know we were talking about something right before we got on, like about life and da, 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 but that music just shifts you into this peaceful place of like,
Yes. Yeah. We're here. And you may notice there's not three of us today. Cheryl was unable to join us. So, unfortunately, and last month there was so much going on. And so we weren't able to show up last month. So we did not want to cancel again. So we are here, Elizabeth and I, to share. Hopefully we'll have some wisdom, and maybe Cheryl will jump in with some comments or something later at a later time. So, Elizabeth, what's going on with you before we jump into our topic?
I feel like the energy in the world, I haven't been up on like where the moon is or where the cycle of the moon is right now, but all I know is like there is something happening, and it's like a little bit of excitement and aliveness, but a little bit of chaos happening there. So I do not know. And if you have any insight on this, Larissa, like, please fill me in, because something in the stars are just chaotic. It's just, and I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just, it's good with dark. Like it's feeling a little of the mix.
It's definitely chaotic. I know we've had a lot of planetary things. Like now I am not, really up, but I do send like a little synopsis of the week of the planets to my mastermind, and that I get from elsewhere because I don't read them myself. But I put the synopsis together. And so there has been a lot of planetary alignments and new shifts that are happening that haven't happened before in our lifetime. There's just so many things happening right now. And so, yes, there has been a lot of chaos. And this week does seem to be one of those weeks. Most people that I've talked to have been feeling really like a little bit, not quite anxious, but like there's some excitement, but chaos going on. Yeah. So all of those things.
So much. It's so much.
Yes. Yeah. And this month we're talking about valuing our power. And we were just having an interesting conversation before we jumped on here, because my wife has had surgery yesterday. And so we were talking about the medical system and, how it doesn't value women. And then that got us into a whole conversation about other things, but about not being valued. And so I thought that was a really good place to start, looking at how we're not listened to often in our world that we're in. And we give up our power to people that we think have more authority or know more than we do. Who knows more about your body than you do? And
Right.
Who should know more about your body than you do? Right. And so that's a really important thing to think about when we think about our power. And how often do women go, there's something wrong, and they're telling you, oh, this is one I get. Oh, just lose weight. And it's like, I really don't think that's what the issue is here, but those are the things we're told.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sad because, well, it's interesting, I'll say, as a holistic practitioner. I often have clients, especially women clients, who I'm getting them to understand or tune into what their body feels like, right? Noticing where they have pain or aches or just a feeling, right?
Mhm.
And it only occurred to me when I adopted Jake, our now 20-year-old, who was 2. And with attachment disorder, he was 2 when we got him, almost 2.5. With attachment disorder, they disassociate from their body. So, like, there was often times where he would pee his pants or have pain. And I knew that it was pain because he had a bump on his head from, hitting the floor or whatever. But he wouldn't cry. And that was when I can remember there was a scenario where our bulldog at the time pushed him over. He hit his head on the hardwood floor, got right up, and like went on with his life. And I said to my friend Greg, who was at the house and happens to be a physician, and I said, "Why isn't he crying? Like that would be like very normal for a child to cry over 2.5 years old." And
Mhm.
because Elizabeth, no one paid attention to him while he was in the orphanage. So every time he did cry, he didn't get any results. So why would he now start to cry, even though there's adults around to pay attention and we want to be able to support him and pay attention? And it just never occurred to me before then that many of us may just feel like no one cares. So why are we going to cry? Or maybe then we stop feeling the feels because no one's paying attention anyway. So
Yeah.
I think that that's it's very interesting that you're bringing this up, Larissa, because certainly there's so much in our society where there's no one's paying attention. So we shut it down. We don't feel anymore, or feelings feel too much. And so I'm going to shut down, or I'm going to suppress my thoughts or my feelings. And it might be with food, or it might be through um, taking substances of any sorts, like whatever it is to get your mind away from feeling. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a big subject.
It really is, and it has been so indoctrinated into us not to feel, right? Like, okay, so the average 2.5-year-old would have cried, but then we would have told them, stop crying. You're fine.
Mhm,
So,
mhm.
so then, and depending on the child, they will either cry more to try and get more attention, and then or they'll stop crying, which
Yeah.
is, the route I went. I just got quieter and quieter as well because, making a fuss didn't help. So, like your son.
Well, and that's the other thing that I did differently with Jake, because and I believe that he was my gift to be awakened to this issue, right?
Mhm.
I wouldn't tell him to not cry. I would do things to encourage him to cry, ironically. And I know that might sound mean, but I wanted him to level up his feelings. So he
Mhm.
really probably wasn't until maybe 8 or 9 years old. We actually lost that dog when her name was Lacey. She was my first child when he was about maybe 9-ish. And
Mhm.
it took him weeks before he cried or mourned her. And I was so glad to see that there was emotion in there,
Mhm.
and he needed to cry. I wanted him to cry. It's okay. It's a natural thing for us to cry, because crying allows us to have feelings, or it allows us to embrace our feelings, whether it's sad, it's happy, it's anger, it's pain. It doesn't matter what the tears are related to. It's an emotion. And if we
Mhm.
can allow our emotions to level up, to say, I'm okay with being emotion or being an emotional person. And I know for me, I was an empath, so I cried all the time and maybe still do. But not being ashamed of those tears, not
Mhm.
being ashamed of feeling that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think things are changing. I see that in my grandkids. Like my daughter does encourage them to have feelings, right? And to understand what their feelings are. Like, okay, I see that you're angry, but maybe we could explore what this is. Like, are you frustrated by something? And they start to explore. And I think that's really good because they've learned some tools on how to, interact in the world.
Yeah.
Our generation, definitely not.
Mm.
And it's still a very much a cultural thing to suppress emotions, right? There are changes happening, but and and when we do that, just coming back to valuing our power, we suppress our power because we don't even understand what we're feeling. It's taken me a long time to start to uncover what emotions I'm actually feeling, right? I did anger really well because that's one of those acceptable emotions we have in our society, anger,
Mhm.
more so for men, but there's a hierarchy, I think, of anger. So men can be angry at everything, women can be angry at, kids and pets, and kids can be angry at stuffed animals, and that's about it. But there's this strange hierarchy, but anger is one of those ones that we're allowed. And so I did that one really well. And so when I started to like really look into like what am I angry about? Well, it was suppressing all the other emotions that I wasn't allowed to have, right? I
Mhm.
wasn't allowed to be sad. I wasn't allowed to be upset about things that were actually happening, all of these different things. And even being too happy, we suppress, right? We
Yeah.
we, what are you so happy about? Think about saying good morning to someone and then what are you so happy about?
Right. Right.
It's all of
Right.
those things. And as we start to uncover what we're actually feeling, it really does bring out our own personal power. We understand ourselves. And I
Mhm.
think that's so important.
Yeah, and to be aware, to become aware of your strengths, right? Like again, as an empath, I can remember my best friend and her sister used to make fun of me because I was crying over a Hallmark commercial and or like a Christmas movie, right? And it was okay. Like I I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed that I was so sensitive. And these were 2 women, 2 girls, 2
Mhm,
one was a 20-year-old woman and another one was my age around this time, was like 12, 13, 14. And I felt like the shame of being a crybaby. And and I was called crybaby, always. And
mhm,
I think that it took me so many years to then, when I went into practice of like being a holistic practitioner, like realizing I was a sensitive person and that wasn't wrong and that was okay. And that I can identify. And I know you said something earlier about being heard, but people need to be seen first to
mhm.
then be heard. So I can see your pain and I can now allow you the space to hear. And so often I'll have clients that don't want to see people cry. They don't want to see people cry. And so we try to wipe away our tears and we try to stuff them down. And I'm like, it's okay to cry. I love when I see people cry. And I know that it just is such a weird thing to hear, but I always say in my space, in my circles or my office, there's tissues in every corner of my office, but I will not give you a tissue because I want you to shed your tears. And if I give you a tissue, it kind of gives you the indication I should stop. So I'm like,
Mhm.
unless if it's a really ugly cry and you're using your hand, that was the only reason why I'll give you a tissue. But I want you to cry. I want to see you cry. I want you to see yourself cry and
Mhm.
be held. Just hold a space. I'm holding a space for you while you're crying. So you can identify where that pain comes from. And it
Yeah.
could be years and years of trauma that's coming up. And that's okay too. We're here as long as you need it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny that you say that because I did a live workshop here not that long ago. And my benchmark that I've done a good job, if I have people cry or have people get angry. If one of those two things happens or both, bonus, then I've done a good job.
Yep. Yeah.
It's just like, and so I had a couple people cry, and I was talking to the facilitator, the person who books everybody, and I'm like, she's like, how did you think it went? And I'm like, I had people cry. It was perfect. It was like exactly what it needed to be. And she's like, okay. I was like,
Mhm.
no, I know that they're opening up to things. If we're talking about emotions and we're digging into things, crying is a good thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I can see that. I can,
Yeah. And even you as the facilitator, the lead, like it's okay for you to show your own emotion, right? So you can see that this is a circle, a safe space for all of us to feel and to allow it to be seen. And none of us has arrived. Like we're just bringing this topic to the surface to say, girl, I see you. It's okay for you to feel the feels. It's
Mhm.
okay for you to be a hot mess. It's okay. Doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you're wrong. It doesn't mean that you're weak. It doesn't mean that you can't do a good job in other aspects of your life. It means that you're real. It means you're
Yeah.
human, and that's
I
okay.
I spent so much time when I first started my online business trying to be what I thought I was supposed to be because I'd been taught, business, you're a professional, you behave a certain way. My community knows I'm a hot mess. I am a hot mess pretty much all the time. There's always something going on with me. However, I still know what the hell I'm talking about, right? Like I still know how to lead them because I'm not doing the work for them. I'm leading them somewhere. I
Right.
can do that as a hot mess.
Mhm.
And I think, well, I know they appreciate it more because we've had conversations about it. But yeah, I
Well,
don't
it's
have
being
that.
authentic, right? It's
Yeah.
being, and I believe that that's the key thing. It's just being authentic to who you are and what you're going through. And that's why, like years ago, when I chose to become a life coach instead of a therapist, and no disrespect to therapists, I have wonderful friends that are therapists, but the reason why I knew that I needed more life coaching was because I was able to share where I've been, and that might mean yesterday. Like I was there yesterday and this is what I learned about that process. And here's what I'm going to teach you about it. And this is my own perspective. It doesn't come from a book. It comes from what's working for me that I've been able to deal with in my own life.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? It's not like saying, "Oh, this is a skill and here we're going to do some heart surgery and it has to get done exactly the way it needs to be done and otherwise you're not going to live." It's just a perspective, but to hear your perspective as the lead and the guide, it gives introspection for that
Mhm.
individual to say, "Okay, how can I heal and rise up?" And that's the key thing. I think that's what we're talking about with valuing our own power is to say, yesterday I was down and it was a dark day. And I learn from the darkness because I get so intimate within myself and I go into my soul and I understand what she needs to feel uplifted.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
And
that's it.
and shared experience is such an important part, right? I
Mhm.
had I had that same comment from a client recently. They said, one of the things about my therapist is she never shares anything about herself.
Mhm.
And so I don't know anyone who's had an experience like this. And I was able to share my experience because it was very similar. And and she's like, I appreciated that so much because it let me know that I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only one going through this. And so, yeah, absolutely. But I'm a huge proponent of therapy also. So, both. But I think it's that whole experience of, and that maybe is a change that therapy needs to go through is, there can be authenticity in therapy too. You don't have to be the one just telling people.
Right.
What's
And
the
I mean, I see a lot of therapists in my practice, and I don't see therapy to be wrong, but they have um, this certain way about themselves that they've been taught that is dated, right? And
Mhm,
I'm beginning to see even some of my therapist friends start to integrate some holistic practices, which
mhm,
I love and I think is so very, very necessary. And they're starting to show their true self and their authentic self, so people can see there's a reflection like, oh, you're human too. You have
mhm.
feelings too. You have a family, you have situations. Of course, we all do, and we need to see that. Doesn't mean to need to be about the session, doesn't need to be about them, but I teach through stories, right? And some of the stories come through what I've gone through. And then I give it as a reflection so they can see how they can implement those tools that I used to
Mhm.
then feel better or to feel up leveled, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of, valuing our power. It's not a power over, which is what our society thinks of power, right? We think of power as this power over because that's the very patriarchal power. But the feminine power is that power within, that
Mhm.
power that we can feel within us, or maybe we feel a spark of it and we don't necessarily feel it completely, but we allow ourselves then to move forward and go after our passions or our purpose, do speak up when we think we maybe shouldn't, or all of those different things. That's what the power we're talking about is, that power within, not the power over. and
Right.
and I think that's a really important distinction in this day and age.
Yeah. And I also think, like, with that being said, that when you become aware of what your strengths are, what you're good at, right? You can bring that into your community, your circle, and you can shine light on that. So, like, there's a lot of things that I'm not good at, and I'm not going to shine light on the things that I'm not good at. But what I bring to my circle are being highly sensitive, highly intuitive, highly communicative. I can draw out the greatness in others. That's what I'm here for. But I'm not going to tell you that I can, build a house, or I can't, I don't do plumbing. I don't even clean a house very well. Like, I'm not going to shed light on that because it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. I'm going to shed light on the things that I feel confident in and that I feel good about. And that's what I want to focus on. And that's what I want to bring. That's my tool that I want to bring to my community, my collective tribe of women that get me, that understand me. And I know they have other skills, and it's not a tug of war of who's better. Like, that's what's so beautiful about our relationship, Larissa. Like, you're a highly intuitive person, and I feel like we don't ever like battle of like who's better. There's no ego there. It's like, yes, you too, I feel this. And then we bring our collective energies together and we create harmony.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the key element of knowing where you are and who you are and the greatness within you. So together we can power up the energy of others. It's
Yeah.
magical.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really important point, right? And it is, when you understand your own power and use that for the greater good, if you will, empowering others. That
Mhm,
is my sole purpose, is empowering women.
mhm,
And and I do that in a number of different ways, but really that's at the core, is
mhm,
empowering women to understand where they stand in the world, feeling encouraged to speak up or move towards something, or it's okay to be a hot mess and move towards something, whatever it is that allows them to move forward. I want to always encourage that, right? And
Yeah,
without the competition, it's all about like how can we empower each other? How can we help each other?
right. And I think that leads it to the one biggest thing that I'm finding for many, and even myself, like having gone through this darkness this past winter of grief and heaviness. And you get into a place of like, ugh, drudgery, right? Like stuck feeling, like not knowing how to get out of that, and not knowing, I mean, not knowing how to inspire yourself, but maybe even ask, knowing like it's so important to, when you feel these feelings of feeling stuck or unfulfilled or uninspired, now it's time to seek, like, who do I resonate with? Who will inspire me? And maybe it's just listening to this episode, right? To go, oh my gosh, there is more to life than the life that I'm living right now. And
Mhm.
then resonating with like, oh, there's something I want more than this. And then be a seeker. Be a seeker of like, well, who is going to be that person to magically help me feel a feeling, right? And
Mhm.
so then like seeking, and then know it's time to ask. Reach out to people who allow you to be seen and be heard, to share your feelings of what you're going through. And then not kind of, especially I find it very important to find your tribe who's going to empower you, to tell you that not just everything's going to be okay. Well, what is it that you need? What is it that your soul wants? To reflect on what you want in your life right now, but not to ice it over, right? It's not going to just be okay. What are you willing to do to make it better is the question.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you just said about finding those people, right? Your people that maybe don't fully understand the direction you're going because you don't fully understand the direction you're going, but encourage you to try things. If you have people in your life who are constantly telling you no, or you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that, maybe you need some new people in your life. We
Right.
need to be able to move towards and have those people. And sometimes it's going to be an online community. Sometimes it's going to be in person. Sometimes it's going to be both. We've never met in person, Elizabeth, and the three of us with Cheryl, we're very close. We've spent 5 years of weekly get-togethers, or more than weekly sometimes,
Hmm.
and we know a lot about each other. We're very close. You're the people that I turn to because you are the people who encourage me to move forward. You don't always understand what I'm doing. You don't always, agree with what I'm doing even, but you encourage me. If that's what you feel you need to do, go do that. And
Right.
and that's an amazing place to be. And those are the people I've surrounded myself with now, right? I
And I
really
also think that even just taking an action, that's why, like, there's times through our 5 years knowing each other, we'll share like our mastermind of like the things that we're doing, either personally or in our business. And it might not make sense, but it's still an action. And that action's going to take us and open up to the next, rather than being stuck in fear of what we are afraid of. Taking an action is a hell of a lot better than feeling the fear and staying in it, right?
Mhm.
Also, a feeling that so many people get stuck in, fear. They don't want to have happen to them, and they stay in it. And it
Yeah.
doesn't ever manifest in something positive. I can tell you that after working with so many people throughout my career. Fear is a manifester of dis-ease, and dis-ease causes the body to not do well, to manifest more unfortunate things. So
Mhm.
moving and taking an action towards a higher vibrational feeling of happiness, joy, pleasure, kindness, whatever that feeling is that you're reaching for, move towards that, because we don't want to see you in that space of darkness, because there is light with every dark.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, our brain is there to bring, well, our culture, but our brain is there to bring in fear because you know, it's trying to keep us safe. It goes back to the time of the saber-toothed tigers, right? Could be a saber-toothed tiger over there, so we need to be careful. And we don't have those same um I don't know the word I'm looking for. We're not going to die most of the time if we do something, but our brain still thinks that way, right? It doesn't
Right.
know the difference between stepping in front of a bus or trying something new. And so we have to know then, okay, our brain's job is to do this, appreciate that, you know, because it's going to stop us from stepping in front of a bus. However, I'm not going to die if I try this new thing.
Right.
Maybe I should just try it and see what happens. Maybe I can do that.
Right.
And having people in your corner who encourage that, because sometimes it's hard when you're trying to do it yourself, when you're
Mhm.
trying to convince yourself that this is a good idea, it can be difficult. So having people in your corner that can help encourage with that.
Right.
Yeah.
And just because something might not work for you or that person doesn't mean that it won't work for you, right?
Mhm.
There's things in my business that I've tried and it didn't work, but doesn't mean that it's not working for somebody else. And
Mhm.
I think that when we get advice from someone else, we need to be aware of like how does that fit in their life versus the difference in your life. So knowing that two people are different people. So actions might not look the same, have the same results from different people. And
Mhm.
that's also very powerful for us to see the power within us, because I might love to speak and you out on a stage, and someone else might not want to speak on a stage, but rather online. And so there's a difference between those two individuals and how empowered they feel, whether they're on stage. And that might, like you, I know if that doesn't feel good for you to be on a stage, then don't do it. But don't judge
Mhm.
yourself because it didn't work, right? Not
Yeah.
saying that that's your story, but I'm just saying in general, like knowing what's your personality and where your strengths are, and match that with what it is that you desire. But make sure you have people that are cheering you on that have similar stories that are willing to do what you've done.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just made me think because, you know, sometimes you need to challenge as well. When I first started online, I was terrified, right? I had all these stories from growing up about not being photogenic and, you know, I ruined all the family pictures. My brother was a model, right? And so totally different. And like I was when I look back, how many times was I actually told this? Maybe once, maybe twice, could have been 10 times. I don't know, but our brain just picks that one thing. So I I actually did hypnotherapy to be able to show up online. Now I can't even imagine, like, whatever, I just show up however I am, and it's like, yeah, I'm here.
Take me
Um,
as I am.
take me as I am. It's like, this is me. I'm not here. You know, if I was a model, maybe I would be concerned about how I look and, you know, all of the things. But for the most part, I'm here to share what I have to share, not what I look like.
Right.
Right. And so I don't worry about that as much. I mean, slightly, right? But not as much. But sometimes you have to push yourself out of your comfort zone as well to try things. Now, if I had tried it and it continued to be a problem, I might be like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't the way I want to go. Maybe I do want to go a different direction. You know, I used to be able to speak on stage with no problem. Now I know that it takes a lot of my energy to be in a large group of people.
Mhm.
So I'd rather do smaller groups. Okay, well, I know that about myself. You
Mhm.
know, I can do it. It's not my favorite thing to do because of the energy it takes. So I just figured that out for my own self. And so we have to sort of decide that where we want to go with our lives. And again, it doesn't have to show up the same. And just on that note as well, I often hear from people, well, I don't want to share that, or I don't want to collaborate, or I don't, because people are going to steal my ideas. We are unique individuals. And even if we do the exact same thing, we are never the same. We're
Right.
never going to do it. We might have the same business and we are not the same. We're going to show up differently. So just show up as yourself, and that's all you have to worry about.
Yeah.
People who are there for you are there for you, right? That's I think really
Well, we're
important.
different. We're energy, right? So we're going to resonate with, some might resonate with you, some might resonate with me. And it's energy. It's what that person feels like, looks like, shares, that is similar to.
Mhm,
And that's why it's a beautiful thing when you remove the comparison or the fear of someone else doing something better, because nothing is unique truly except for the individual that you are, right? No
mhm,
story, no business, no philosophy hasn't been done, right? it's
mhm.
all it's all collective energy. So some might resonate with you, some might resonate with me. Not wrong, either one, right? That's why we could get out there and share the same message, and someone's gonna tune into you or get in your programs, and someone might get into mine because of being, I'm a 52-year-old woman who has a 10-year-old and a 20-year-old. You're a
Mhm.
mom who's already raised them and you have grandchildren, but we're in the same age bracket, right? Completely
Mhm.
different lives,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
similar, right? So it's
yeah,
just a different resignation. And I think that's the key thing of like what feels right for an individual, for them to tune into what they're feeling. And this goes back to paying attention to how you feel so you
mhm.
can up level and power yourself up.
Yeah. It does come back to tapping in, right? That how do you feel? Do you even know what those different emotions are? Do you know why your body feels a certain way, right? Do you notice when you've tensed up or your stomach is upset and you're like, "Why is my stomach upset?" Like, do you start to look at those things to see what's actually going on with you? And so I encourage everyone to do that, to start pay attention. Pay attention to what's actually happening for you. And it doesn't matter if it matches somebody else. I someone who is neurodiverse, my emotions often don't match what is expected, what other people expect. When I'm really frustrated, I will cry, which then frustrates me more. Sometimes when I'm really angry, I'll laugh. And, so I've learned from myself, my kids also learned, but I've learned from myself to like not pay attention necessarily to what other people are doing and how they react in their emotions, but what am I feeling? Right?
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, so yes, I might be laughing, but I'm actually upset. So
Mhm.
what can I do about that? Because, people see you laughing, oh, you're happy, you're fine. And so,
Yeah.
you know, so really you need to know for your own self. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true of just like tapping in and tuning in and noticing how you act and react to situations. And as you begin to become very aware of who you are, and so many of us think that we know everyone else, but do you know yourself, right? And know how your actions and reactions and why you do things. And that way then you can really embrace who you are, knowing, noticing like why we do certain things, and it's okay. And if you
Yeah.
don't like it, then you have the power. Acknowledgement is the first step, right? And then
Mhm.
to change that and create a new behavior or pathway to empower yourself to do the next step of what next, right? Take action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the only ones who can decide what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We get to decide. I often hear people say, well, I didn't have a choice. No, you always have a choice. You just may not like the consequences. You
Right.
always have a choice. And so just remembering that you have the power. You are making a decision every single time. Whether you like it or not, you are making the decision.
And I want to state one more thing for that, because no action is still a decision. No action. So if you don't do anything, it's still a decision to doing nothing, right? So if you don't like the way that your life is going right now today, and you're not willing to do anything about it, that is an action. That is a choice.
Mm-hmm.
No one's
Yeah.
going to force you. No one's going to make you. I say this to my kids all the time. I can't make you do anything. I can only encourage you and empower you to make choices from this place. So if you don't like where you are right now, take action, do something, move, change your thought process, change the belief system in your life, and take action. I used to be a super shy person. I would hug my mother's leg, like seriously, till I was like 12 or 13 years old. It was very embarrassing. But if I wanted to go and play with my brothers and sisters and cousins and all the people, I needed to take action, change the mindset, like, I can do this. They do want to hang out with me, or I will find fun any other way. It was a decision that I needed to make within myself, and then I needed to move my feet. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's a perfect place to end. Do you have any final thoughts before we go today? Anything
nope.
you want to share?
This was a powerful, powerful conversation. And Larissa, I thank you for being your authentic self. I love that all the stories that you shared, because I think it resonates with so many of us that are struggling. And maybe we see, especially online, how people look and how they present themselves. But sharing, your true self allows others to maybe get insight on how you're living, but what you're doing and how you're taking action. And I know that's how you started your first business and now led you to Heart Centered Academy. And I think it's really powerful, because a lot of people are sitting in their home right now watching this YouTube saying, oh, she's like me. I could do that too, right? If she could do this, I could do this. And I totally empower that. And I know we've always said, if there's something that we've said in our conversation today that either you don't like, please reach out to us, because we want to confront that. Whatever that feeling is, bring it on. Let us help you clear that energy. And if there's something that you love that we've said resonates with you, that's going to empower you to take action, oh my gosh, we want to cheer you on. So I hope that this conversation with Larissa helps you do something that inspires you to have a better life, whether that's being more healthy, happier, or empowered. So
I love
thank
that.
you.
Seems perfect. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. And again, if you leave comments, we will gladly answer. And we do want to hear, good, bad, or otherwise, we do want to hear your thoughts. And we appreciate you. I appreciate you, Elizabeth, and thank you for being here today. And we did miss Cheryl, but we did have a great conversation. So, maybe next time it'll be different, but
Everything's in divine order, as we know.
that's true. Bye for now.
See you.